Your mind is supposed to be your sanctuary, a place of clarity, strength, and protection. But for many people today, the mind has become something else entirely, a battlefield filled with toxic thoughts, fears, and mental noise. Thoughts that drain your energy, corrupt your confidence, and make even the simplest moments feel heavy. Maybe you felt it too. The overthinking that never stops. The intrusive thoughts that come out of nowhere. The negative inner voice that keeps repeating the same story, a story that hurts you. But here's the truth the ancient Stoics understood better than anyone. Your mind is not broken. It's simply uncultivated. And just like a garden left unattended grows weeds, a mind left unmanaged becomes overrun with toxic thinking. The Stoics believe that inner peace is not something you wait for, it's something you build. They developed powerful tools to clear mental noise, remove harmful thoughts, and restore calm even in the middle of chaos. Techniques used by emperors, philosophers, warriors, and ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges. And in today's world, overwhelmed by information, stress, comparison, and pressure, these tools are more relevant than ever. So in this video, you will discover 7 Stoic principles to cleanse your mind from toxic thoughts, regain control over your inner world, and rebuild the mental stillness you've been missing. If you stay until the end, you'll also learn the daily ritual the Stoics use to reset their mind every single night, a practice modern psychology now confirms as one of the most powerful habits for mental clarity. Let's begin the process of clearing your mind, one Stoic lesson at a time. Step 1. Identify the source of toxic thoughts. Before you can clear your mind, you must first understand where toxic thoughts actually come from. The Stoics believe that nothing can be defeated unless it is first identified. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the mind becomes clear when it understands itself. Toxic thoughts rarely appear out of nowhere. They grow from patterns shaped by fear, insecurity, past experiences, and false beliefs we've unconsciously accepted. The problem is that most people fight their thoughts blindly, without ever examining their roots. The Stoics encourage you to pause and ask the essential question. What is the origin of this thought? Is it coming from fear of the future? A past wound you never healed? Social comparison and pressure? A false assumption you never questioned? Your ego trying to protect itself? Someone else's voice you mistakenly internalized? Once you identify the source, something powerful happens. The thought loses its authority. It stops feeling like an absolute truth and becomes what it truly is, just a mental event, not a command, not a prophecy, not a fact. The Stoics taught that awareness is the first step toward liberation. Naming the thought creates distance. Understanding its source gives you control. And realizing that it is not you, but simply a reaction, frees your mind from its grip. Before going further, take a moment. Observe the thoughts that disturb your peace. Trace them back to their origin. The moment you identify them, they stop being toxic, and start becoming manageable. Step 2, the Stoic principle of control. What depends on you? One of the most powerful ideas in Stoic philosophy is also one of the simplest. Peace comes from focusing only on what is within your control. This principle, taught by Epictetus, has the ability to instantly dissolve many toxic thoughts, because most mental suffering comes from trying to control what you never had power over. According to the Stoics, everything in life falls into 2 categories. What depends on you? What does not depend on you? What depends on you includes your actions, your attitude, your judgments, your decisions, your effort, your inner response. What does not depend on you includes other people's opinions, the past, external events, outcomes you cannot fully influence, how others treat you, random circumstances of life. Toxic thoughts grow strongest in the second category. We exhaust ourselves trying to change people, fix the past, predict the future, or control situations that are fundamentally outside our reach. This creates frustration, anxiety, and a constant feeling of weakness, because the mind is fighting a battle it cannot win. Stoicism teaches a different approach. Redirect your energy toward what is truly yours. When you shift your focus from the uncontrollable to the controllable, the noise in your mind begins to fade. You stop trying to force outcomes and start taking responsibility for your own inner state. Suddenly, thoughts like, "I can't believe they said that about me," become, "I control my reaction, not their words. I'm scared of what might happen tomorrow," becomes, "I control my preparation, not the future." This principle doesn't just reduce toxic thoughts. It starves them. Because a mind that focuses on what it can control becomes calm, disciplined, and almost impossible to disturb. Step 3. Cognitive distancing. You are not your thoughts. One of the greatest causes of mental suffering is the belief that every thought in your mind is true, important, or defining. But the Stoics taught the opposite. Your thoughts are events, not identities. They appear, they pass, they change, and you are not obligated to believe or obey them. The Stoic technique known as cognitive distancing is simple but transformative. Observe your thoughts without becoming them. Most people merge with their thoughts. I feel anxious becomes, I am anxious. I failed becomes, I'm a failure. A single negative idea grows into a self-definition that shapes behavior and emotions. The Stoics refused to let this happen. Seneca explained that the mind must act like a wise guardian, watching thoughts enter and leave, but granting none of them absolute authority. To practice cognitive distancing, imagine your thoughts as clouds drifting across the sky. Messages you didn't ask to receive. Noise from a nearby room. Actors performing on a stage. You can observe them, without being controlled by them. When a toxic thought appears, don't fight it. Don't argue with it. Simply name it. Here is a thought of fear. Here is a thought of self-doubt. Here is a thought of anger. By doing this, you create space, a psychological distance that weakens the thought's emotional grip. The Stoics understood that once a thought is labeled, it loses the power to manipulate you from the shadows. You stop reacting automatically. You stop attaching meaning to every mental impulse. You begin to see the mind as something you can manage, rather than something that controls you. Cognitive distancing doesn't eliminate toxic thoughts. It eliminates their influence. And when the influence fades, the mind becomes clearer, calmer, and far more resilient. Step 4. The Stoic reframe, transforming toxic thoughts into rational ones. Toxic thoughts do not disappear by force. The Stoics understood that the mind cannot be bullied into peace, it must be guided toward clarity. One of their most powerful tools for this is reframing, the practice of transforming a harmful interpretation into a rational and empowering one. This concept appears throughout the writings of Marcus Aurelius, where he repeats a simple but life-changing truth. You have power over your mind, not external events. Meaning, your suffering often comes not from the event itself, but from the story you tell yourself about it. Toxic thoughts usually sound like, I can't handle this. Everyone is judging me. This always happens to me. I'm not good enough. These are not facts, they are interpretations. The Stoic method is to challenge them with reason and reframe them into something grounded, stable, and realistic. For example, I can't handle this. I can handle what is in front of me, one step at a time. Everyone is judging me. Most people are too busy with their own lives to care. I failed, I'm a failure. Failure is an event, not an identity. This is the end of everything. I've survived everything life has thrown at me so far. The purpose of reframing is not to lie to yourself, nor to pretend everything is perfect. It is to replace irrational exaggerations with balanced truth. The Stoics believe that when emotion is high, logic must step forward, because only logic can reduce the intensity of toxic thinking. Reframing trains your mind to pause, examine, and reinterpret situations before reacting emotionally. Over time, this becomes automatic. Your mind naturally searches for rational explanations instead of catastrophic ones. Toxic thoughts lose their poison when they encounter reason. And a mind trained to reframe becomes more stable, more confident, and ultimately, more peaceful. Step 5. The discipline of stillness, training your mind to slow down. Toxic thoughts thrive in a restless mind. A mind that jumps from fear to fear, from memory to imagination, from worry to distraction. The Stoics understood that mental chaos is the perfect environment for negativity to grow. Their solution was simple, timeless, and incredibly effective. Stillness. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of inner order. Marcus Aurelius described it as, the ability to remain calm inside, even while the world moves outside. To the Stoics, stillness was a discipline, a skill that could be trained through deliberate practice. They believed that if you don't slow your mind down, it will control you. But if you learn to pause, breathe, and observe, you regain mastery. Here are 3 Stoic techniques to cultivate stillness. 1. The pause before reaction. When a toxic thought appears, do nothing for a moment. No judgment. No interpretation. Just a breath. This short pause interrupts the automatic emotional response, giving you space to choose clarity instead of chaos. 2. Voluntary simplicity. The Stoics frequently removed noise from their lives, unnecessary tasks, distractions, and mental clutter. The mind becomes quieter when the life around it becomes simpler. 3. Mindful breathing. While the Stoics didn't call it meditation, they practiced intentional breathing to settle the mind. Slow, controlled breaths signal the body to relax and reduce the intensity of toxic thinking. The true power of stillness is this. A calm mind can see clearly. When your thoughts slow down, toxic ideas lose their urgency. Problems become solvable. Emotions become manageable. You begin to respond instead of reacting. Stillness isn't about escaping life, it's about meeting life with clarity and strength. A mind trained in stillness becomes resilient, steady, and almost impossible to overwhelm. Step 6. Negative visualization, turning fear into inner strength. One of the most misunderstood Stoic practices is negative visualization. At first glance, it seems counterintuitive. Why would you visualize negative events if you want peace of mind? But the Stoics saw this exercise not as pessimism, but as mental training. As Seneca taught, imagining potential difficulties prepares the mind, reduces shock, and builds emotional resilience. Fear grows in the unknown. Once the mind becomes familiar with a possibility, it stops being terrified by it. The goal of negative visualization is simple. Reduce the power of fear by facing it calmly in your imagination. Think of it like a mental vaccine. You expose yourself to a weakened version of the fear so it no longer overwhelms you in real life. For example, you might visualize losing something you rely on, making a mistake, facing rejection, not getting a desired outcome, dealing with a difficult situation. Not to scare yourself, but to prepare yourself. When you practice this, something incredible happens. Your mind stops seeing these possibilities as catastrophic. You realize that even if the worst happens, you have the ability to adapt, respond, and grow. The fear loses its edge. The panic loses its urgency. And your inner peace becomes less dependent on perfect circumstances. Negative visualization also teaches appreciation. When you imagine losing what you take for granted, your job, your home, your relationships, your opportunities, you begin to value them more deeply. Gratitude becomes natural, not forced. The Stoics used this technique to stay grounded, humble, and unshakable. By rehearsing challenges in the mind, they became stronger in real life. Toxic thoughts often exaggerate danger. But when you voluntarily face those fears, you shrink them back to their actual size. A mind trained with negative visualization becomes prepared, balanced, and far more confident. Because nothing can surprise it. Step 7. Practicing Stoic detachment, letting go of what hurts you. Toxic thoughts often come from a single source, attachment. Attachment to outcomes, attachment to approval, attachment to control, attachment to how life should be. When reality doesn't match our expectations, the mind reacts with stress, disappointment, fear, or resentment. The Stoics believe that inner peace is impossible until you learn to loosen your grip on the things that do not belong to you. Detachment doesn't mean indifference, it means freedom. Epictetus taught that suffering begins when we cling too tightly to things outside our control, people, circumstances, results, opinions, events. When we depend on these for peace, we make our inner life fragile. Stoic detachment is the practice of reminding yourself. This is not mine to hold. Here's how it works. 1. Let go of outcomes. You control effort, not results. When you detach from outcomes, you free your mind from fear and disappointment. You give your best, and accept whatever follows with dignity. 2. Detach from opinions. Most toxic thoughts come from worrying about what others think. But opinions are unstable, inconsistent, and often uninformed. The Stoics refuse to let the noise of others rule their inner world. 3. Release the past. The past is unchangeable, yet it sits at the center of many toxic thoughts. Stoic detachment means acknowledging the past without dragging it into your present identity. 4. Surrender the illusion of control. Much of our suffering comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. When you release that illusion, your mind becomes lighter. Detachment doesn't make you cold. It makes you unbreakable. Because nothing external has the power to shake a mind that does not cling. With detachment comes clarity. With clarity comes calm. And with calm comes the ability to think clearly, respond wisely, and live in the present moment without fear. A detached mind is not empty, it is free. Conclusion: the Stoic path to inner peace. In the end, clearing your mind from toxic thoughts is not about forcing yourself to think positive or pretending everything is perfect. It's about mastering the one thing you will carry with you for the rest of your life, your inner world. Stoic philosophy teaches a simple but powerful truth. Your peace begins the moment you stop allowing outside forces to control your inner state. Toxic thoughts lose their power when you question them. Fear dissolves when you stop feeding it. Anxiety weakens when you shift your focus back to what you can control. And emotional chaos fades when you step back, breathe, and reconnect with your rational mind. Your mind becomes clear the moment you stop fighting reality, and start cooperating with it. Life will always bring challenges, noise, negativity, and unpredictable events. But you get to choose your response. You get to choose your interpretation. You get to choose whether a thought becomes a prison, or simply a passing cloud. Inner peace is not something you stumble upon, it's a discipline. A daily practice. A skill you build, thought by thought, moment by moment. And if you apply these Stoic principles consistently, distancing yourself from toxic thoughts, focusing on what you control, reframing your interpretation, practicing stillness, and letting go, you will feel something extraordinary growing inside you. An unshakable mind. A mind that belongs to you. A mind that cannot be poisoned by the world around you. A mind that is calm, disciplined, and clear. If this message brought you value, consider subscribing for more Stoic lessons and personal growth content. Your peace is your power. Protect it, every single day.